Let's go ahead and take an overview, a look on all the topics that we'll be covering in this class. So of course, we'll do an introduction, right? We're going to be covering a lot of setup in this first module and some fundamental terms, right? We got to have the correct vocab, the right lingo, so we know how to talk like programmers. Then we'll be moving into actual coding in Java. So we'll talk about the structure, some of the syntax, right? Just the little quirks of Java. We'll talk data and variables. So that's going to allow us to store data, right? Use it, reuse it. Then we'll go into fundamental statements so that we can actually use those variables, get them to do things that we want. We'll talk operators. We'll talk conditional statements. So we'll be able to do some math. We'll be able to do some comparisons. We'll be able to branch our code so that I can make decisions. We'll look into loops. So loops will allow us to write one piece of code and have it repeat itself and do things at a larger scale potentially. We'll talk arrays. So that's one of the most important data structures, right? One of the most fundamental as well. So we're used to storing things in variables, but maybe you need to store multiple things, right? And group them together. Arrays is definitely the way to go. We'll talk about files and user input. So that'll be, adding to our skill set so that we actually can write useful programs that are flexible and that respond right to actual users. We'll talk about functions. That's going to allow us to reuse our code and do the same thing over and over again and just write like a single reference to that code. We'll talk about objects and classes because, of course, Java is an object-oriented programming language. We'll discuss that further in this first module, what that means. And then lastly, we'll prepare ourselves for writing a full-fledged Java program, right? So we're going to write a program that actually solves a problem, right? Does something, and that looks like a program, right? One that a typical user might interact with. Of course, right, we're not writing the next, famous app, the next mobile app, the next, $1 million software. But we all have to start somewhere, right? And all these skills will definitely get you to that culminating project, right, at the end of the class, where you do write an actual app, an actual Java app. I can tell you, right, it was just a few years ago when I was first learning how to program, and then a few years later, right, fast forward, I've written mobile applications. I got hired as a full stack engineer. I worked on space domain projects, right, as I discussed in the introduction. I was working with microservices. It was a huge leap, right, from where I started to where I am now. And I promise you, right, although it seems kind of scary, right, at first, learning a new skill, especially programming, right, we're literally learning how computers talk, how to talk to computers. Um, I can tell you that I've been there, I've gone through the process. I wasn't special. I'm not an extraordinary talent. I was just dedicated, just like you will be in this class. So I'm excited to take this journey with you, right, and cover all these topics. And hopefully by the end of the class, like I said, you'll have your own little project to show your knowledge. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's actually get into the class content.